situation that exists here. I understand that, since they've tried to back out of this agreement, that they've been receiving texts and calls every day, and I'm just curious what your position is on this and how we're going to have to proceed forward.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering the same. I'm wondering what have they told you about the situation?
Um, I'll kind of make it a brief summary, but there's a gentleman that came to their house, who I think he identified himself as an investor. That after several hours there, it's requested that she needed to turn her kid down and that he go, and that they needed to think about it, wanted to schedule another appointment. They said not at this time. He refused. Basically, to get him out of the house at about 8:30, she just scribbled a document that evening, that night, she, I believe, or by the next day, she contacted you guys before there had really been any consideration, and said that she didn't want to back out of the agreement because she has to stay in her home with her child because of a custody situation, that she'd been receiving calls from who's like the transaction coordinator, telling her that, what we'll do is, we'll let's continue with the document. We'll just keep it on the market for a year. And that's what we'll do instead of just selling it for you. And she says, and in fact, I want to keep it. I don't want to do that. So she continues to receive kind of pressure tactic phone calls, to which she said, I don't want to go through with this. Please discontinue talking to me, which is when she reached out to our office. Those are the basic, without going into the agreement, those are the facts as she sort of explained them to me.
Okay. So did she tell you why they were thinking of selling in the first place?
Yeah.
Okay. Because they're having problems making their payments?
That's not what she told me, but I don't see that if she doesn't want to sell as, I don't know, inconsequential to my legal analysis of this.
Well, no, the only reason I bring it up is I'm kind of wondering how they're going to pay you for your services, but
it's not really a concern of yours, frankly, but I'll handle that.
Okay.
So
what about the contract? Because you said in your voicemail, what about the contract is not enforceable?
Well, I guess my first point would be, if ultimately here's the way I look at this. You guys have a choice whether or not you want to try to enforce this agreement, right? And I spent an hour with a colleague of mine reviewing it. But our first offense is going to be duress. The fact that they asked, who is not even a real estate agent, and you're not even using like an RE21, because I understand. I think what's interesting is looking at this contract. It's even a little bit confusing for someone. And I don't do a ton of real estate transactions, but my partner does, and we still find this agreement confusing. But to have an effective agreement, you usually need to have some sort of consideration, and instead of just signatures. Someone has to do something for the other person. Now, there's been no earnest money, there have been no services provided, and there's no other contracts or anything. The buyer has not entered into any type of contract that is going to initiate the sale of this property. So it'll just come down to argument over the agreement. And based upon the four corners of the document, it looks incomplete. I would argue there's not a meeting of the minds there. It fails to identify a real estate agent in the buyer disclosure. Evidently, the guy that came over was an investor pressure tactics. I think it violates the Consumer Protection Act. Evidently, your correspondence with they were asking my clients that they don't seek out legal counsel on this. This isn't a legal issue. You don't need legal counsel. As a business, you cannot tell an unsophisticated buyer not to seek out their own legal counsel. And we have that documented. That is a problem. I think that the agreement itself causes likelihood of confusion and misunderstanding as to the source, sponsorship, or the approval of where the purchase is coming from, especially because you don't have a real estate agent. You have a company. A company can't be a real estate agent. You could have real estate agents within a company, but it's just, I find it overall confusing. And from an optics perspective, our client refuses to move forward with it. Despite their problems, though, you have. I mean, if you're trying to move forward with this agreement and turn it into like a legal situation, the optics are just not in your favor. And I really looked at your reviews. You guys have plenty of good reviews, but the optics of this situation, it seems like if I was in your shoes, you guys seem to be doing well. I'd move along to the next person who actually wants to sell their home instead of trying to force some mother who lives there with their child and her new husband to do it. It's not. I don't know. These are my initial thoughts based upon the facts, and you're welcome to refute them or explain to me why I have the wrong impression here.
Well, you named off a lot of stuff there. So let me just ask a couple questions to you. The agent thing has me a little confused. So do you need to be an agent to buy real estate?
Well, you don't need to be an agent to enter into a contract, I suppose, with someone. But if your document leaves space for an agent, right? And whoever the agent is, it's a very important piece of an agreement between a buyer and a seller. And so, yes, if you fail to disclose who your agent is, that is a material piece of information, which would mean that if you don't have that included, to have an actual contract, both parties must have a meeting of the minds, which means that they've come to like a full understanding of the terms of the agreement. And you don't even have a real estate agent listed, which is one of the primary, that's the reason you use an RE21, which you guys seem to have kind of decided not to use because, again, you're a company trying to buy someone else's real estate to resell it. I understand that. And then paragraph 18 talks about how time is of the essence. And it's like, if by this date, by 11:59, we don't have an agreement, this contract is voided. And you don't even have a date included there. So, I mean, just on that grounds alone, the contract is void.
Mm.
You got to make sure whoever's going to the property at least includes the date for Section 18. Because if you don't include it, the court's going to look at that and say, well, then how is the buyer to know when this was, or in this case, the seller, either party, to know when it's voidable? There's just not enough information there.
So you didn't really answer my question about the agent thing. Could you actually answer that?
Do you have to be an agent to buy real estate?
Yeah.
I know as an attorney you can buy real estate, and I'm not a real estate agent.
Okay, so is it a yes or a no?
The answer is no, because I know I bought my own house. I'm not a real estate agent, but I'm an attorney.
Right. Okay, so can you not be an attorney and not be an agent and still buy a property?
Explain to me the relevance of this.
Well, I want to see if you know what you're doing, because I don't think you do.
Okay, so whether or or not I know what I'm doing, how is it going to impact your decision? Because my clients are telling you, and I work at a firm, look us up with 7 attorneys, 2 of us specialize in real estate. I dabble in it, but for us, this isn't a big enough situation to put it to a real estate attorney. You have the opportunity to sue for specific enforcement of this contract. And I see the potential damages that you think that you can get if you want to try to coerce my clients into purchasing this property. Again, so the ball is in your court. You can either leave them alone, in which case they probably won't reach out to the Better Business Bureau or the Idaho Real Estate Commission to discuss the tactics that you've employed upon them, or
dude, I don't need a lecture from you. We buy hundreds. Listen to me. We buy hundreds of properties, and we went to them and we said, okay, your plans have changed. So in order to protect our interests, we would like to sign a year extension with you. And if you don't sell it by the end of that year, then poof, the interests go away. And that's the addendum that we explained to them over the phone numerous times. Both her and her husband said that was totally fine for them to sign and that they were going to do it. And then literally overnight, they decided, actually, we're going to lawyer up instead because we don't want to do that.
It wasn't overnight.
It literally was overnight. Hey, listen, I have all the calls. I have all the calls recorded. We have the appointment recorded. We have the text messages. Like, you don't need to tell me what actually happened because I know what actually happened. So why is the reason that they don't want to sign the year-long extension?
Well, now it's because you've harassed them and they don't like you. The pressure tactics here. I mean, we could.
What does that mean, though? Reasons, you didn't. That's not a reason.
Listen, I am not compelled to tell you anything more. You are more than welcome to file a lawsuit. You've sold hundreds of homes. Congratulations. How many of those you have litigated the agreement that you don't even have your agents properly signed?
I don't have any agents. That's not relevant. You have no idea what you're doing.
Your agreement says that. I'm not talking about real estate agents. I'm talking about agents of a business, as in an employee. Anyone that works for a business can be identified as an agent or employee.
And what did they do wrong? What did they do wrong?
It's complete duress in this contract.
Which part?
The tactics of calling them every day.
Hold on, you're skipping around. You're saying the tactics, hold on. Are you going to overtalk me? Or are you going to overtalk me, or are we going to have a professional conversation? You know, I don't interrupt you when you're talking.
Yeah, you don't appear to be frustrated.
Why would I be frustrated? We have a legally binding contract. I'm trying to understand why they're frustrated and why they won't sign the year-long extension. There's no reason not to.
Because it's not legally binding and because they don't want to sell their home anymore.
Right, so why wouldn't they just sign the year-long extension?
Then file a lawsuit. Hire a lawyer and file a lawsuit.
Well, we will, because there's no reason why they wouldn't sign the year-long extension, because if they don't sell it in that year's time, then poof, everything goes away and they're fine.
Listen, man, you can file the lawsuit or you can drop it. It's entirely your decision. I cannot tell you any more on their behalf. They identified the facts to me, and that's what I have. I cannot sit here and tell you why they're not going to go through it any more than I already have.
Right, because you haven't actually given me a reason. What does it damage them to not sign the year-long extension? That's what we're trying to understand. Because over the phone, they said, that sounds totally reasonable, totally fair, we'll sign it. And then literally overnight, I have the texts, I have the call records, I have everything. They changed their mind.
Do you have your conversation with Bill also?
Absolutely.
he was recording them in their house. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Idaho's a single-party consent state.
Well, they're not even using a telephone wire, so it doesn't matter. But okay, it's good to know that all of that is documented, and you can bring that forward with the lawsuit, and we'll request it in discovery. I can't wait to put this in front of a judge.
Why would you do? Why would you? You can't wait to put it in front of a judge. The judge is going to grant us specific. The judge is going to grant us specific performance or damages. So
let's see.
I can tell you we've already done quite a few of these and we've never lost. So
okay, well, here's your opportunity to do it again. Our client, listen. So you're asking my client to enter a contract with you, or an addendum to the contract that will sell their home out from under them, rendering them homeless.
That's not what the addendum says. Have you read the addendum?
Well, what, you have a year?
What does the addendum say? Let's see if you're Johnny on the spot or not.
Dude, I don't care if I'm Johnny on the spot or not. Now,
well, no, you actually have to know what you're talking about. You actually have to know what the document says. I mean, come on, man. Like, what are you trying to make shit up out of thin air? Like, actually read the addendum so you know what you're talking about.
Completed by October 20th. It gives you till October 20th.
Yes.
2024.
So what does it damage them by signing that? That's what I'm not understanding.
What does it damage them by signing it? They're just not going to sign it, Ryan.
But why?
We don't know you an explanation, man.
Well, okay, then they're going to get sued.
I'm going to end the call here, and you can find my email on the Idaho State Bar website. We can continue correspondence there, because I want to have recordings along with yours. I know you like to have everything recorded, and we'll move from there. If you want to schedule a call with me to talk about this in further detail, and we want to have another one of my real property attorneys available with us, we can absolutely do that.
Well, no, I'll just escalate this to our attorney, and you guys can hash it out. But they're gonna lose in damages, or it's gonna be a lawsuit. So I was hoping to avoid that by understanding their situation more. But you haven't given me a reason why they won't sign it.
We're not. Just send it to your attorney, man. I'd much rather deal with him. Thanks for your time today, Ryan. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.